a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And indeed, the gang is all here. Matt is back. I don't know. Might be able to make both hours. We'll get a full update here in just a couple of moments. He'll be with us as long as he possibly can hold out. We're going to be talking about a team shutting down after this weekend. We got a driver who suffered a concussion last weekend, and we'll talk about whether or not he'll be able to race this weekend. Got the Rookie of the Year class for one series coming into focus. Both IndyCar and NASCAR are talking 2026 schedule specifically. Got more news about a Formula One TV rights deal here in the United States. And sadly, we have to talk about the passing of a NASCAR legend. All that, and, well, frankly, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because we got plenty of it to go. Thank you for joining us, whether you're on 95.1 The Mountain here in East Central Alabama or on CRN Live on YouTube. If you're on the latter, hope you join in on the chat, and we'll be right back.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. More racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Plenty to get to, but let's deal with the most important thing. The guy that's in the other camera frame over there on CRN Live on YouTube and inhabiting what they call guest mic number one here in the studio. is the return of Matt Nicholson. How are you, man?
I'm making it.
Yeah?
Little by little.
I know.
Little by little.
You joined us on the podcast, Cross Flags, earlier this week. It's available now, CRN Live.
Yeah.
Your voice was a little rough. Sounds a little smoother now.
There's minor improvements little by little. I still have little instances where it'll just go by the wayside, and I'm like, where did you go? But it's getting there.
All right.
Getting there.
Good deal. And everything in the aftermath of the surgery came out good, except for that nice little scar right across your thumb.
Nice little dual scar that when the bandage come off, I was like, hey, that's not one scar, there's two.
Uh-huh.
So having the doctor that, other than that, it's what was expected.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Well, we're glad to have you back, man.
Thank you.
All right, race recap from last weekend. As the race was coming to an end, so was our show, so we did not get the chance to give you the full rundown of last Saturday morning's Formula E race in Berlin. First of two on a doubleheader weekend. Mitch Evans has the pole, led most of the race on the way to the win. He bested Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein wanted to win in his home country, but came up just short. He did work his way up from a 9th place starting position, but again, could only get a best of second. Eduardo Motora actually qualified 11th. He finished 3rd. Rest of your top 10, the rookie Taylor Bernard continues to impress. He finishes 4th. Nick Cassidy, Max Gunther, Sebastian Buemi, Nico Muller, Dan Ticktum, and Antonio Felix da Costa, because it was a doubleheader weekend. We'll get to the points in a minute. We also noted on the show last weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen had the chance to do something that had only been done twice before, once by him, which was sweep the Xfinity in the Cup Series poles and wins in the same weekend. He had done it just the weekend before in Chicago, and then before that it had only been done by Kyle Busch in 2016 in Indianapolis. Started off right. He got the pole for the Xfinity Series race in Sonoma, and then Connor Zilisch said, not so fast, my friend. Zilisch had the lead with the final few laps ticking off, had a mirror full of SVG, and the thing is, he would kind of beat and bang on the back bumper of Connor Zilich's car, but he never did turn him. And I'm not going to say for lack of opportunity. He could have.
Oh, he had every chance in the world to. But that's what you call a definition of clean, hard, aggressive racing.
Yeah. You think about what Connor Zilisch had said about SVG after the Chicago race and said, wow, I wasn't expecting it to be that rough. I don't think that was sticking in SVG's mind by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time,
oh, no. You
know, for him to understand, hey, listen, this was as clean and clear as you could possibly get it, and all the kudos go to SVG. That was, you know, I got to give Connor Zilisch credit for that, for the 18, 19-year-old kid to have that kind of a solid head on his shoulders.
For sure.
As I said, he went on, claims to win, got out of the car. He said, first, hats off to Shane. It was awesome all race long. Felt like we were racing each other with respect. I did wheel hop a little bit one time, got into him. Otherwise, it was awesome to get the race against him finally and battle with him the whole race long. And I'm sure underlying on that was, and I got the win. Haha.
Yeah.
Zilisch wins SVG second place. William Sawalich with a third place run. Nick Sanchez, Moonlighter, Riley Earps round out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Justin Allgaier, Taylor Gray, Carson Kvapil, Sammy Smith, and Sheldon Creed. So you got 3 drivers that now have 3 wins: Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill, and now Connor Zilisch. With a win each, there's Jesse Love, Brandon Jones, Nick Sanchez, and Sammy Smith. They are the ones locked into the playoffs. In on points, Sam Mayer, Carson Kvapil, Sheldon Creed, Taylor Gray, and Jeb Burton. Jeb has a 16-point lead over his cousin Harrison for that 12th and final playoff spot, and Ryan Sieg's another 34 points behind Harrison, so this is not settled by any stretch of the imagination. Plus, you might get a surprise winner here or there. Also running a doubleheader weekend was the IndyCar Series in Iowa, and after having to cancel all Friday activities, we talked about it last week here on the Big Show due to tornadic activity in the area, things were condensed into Saturday morning and midday. Led to an evening start, but they did get it on time as initially scheduled. Main question was, would Alex Palou continue his dominance? Well, yes and no. The no part of it was Saturday. He didn't even dominate the race. That honor belonged to Joseph Newgarden, who led 232 laps on the day, but he didn't even lead the last one. That honor went to Pato O'Ward. He led 33 laps in all on the afternoon, grabs the win, puts Newgarden in the runner-up slot. Then you got Will Power, Scott McLaughlin. Alex Palou could do no better than 5th. Rest of your top 10, Christian Rasmussen, Connor Daly, Santino Ferrucci with another good run. Marcus Armstrong and Scott Dixon will deal with the points after we recap Sunday's race, too. Speaking of, Sunday morning in Berlin, seemingly an exercise in not needing a good starting spot. Witness the podium finishers. For example, Nick Cassidy starts the race 20th out of 22 racers, but methodically works to get the Jaguar out front, and he claims the win. That might be the farthest back any driver in Formula E history has started and then finished with the win. Mm-hmm. Second place finisher Jake Dennis starts 16th. Third place, Jean-Eric Verne, who started the race 18th. What the heck happened to the people who were sitting on the pole and up there?
Yeah.
Rest of your top 10, Oliver Rowland claims the title with the finish. We'll get back to that. Mitch Evans in there. Rookie Taylor Bernard finishes 6th. Felipe Dragovich, who is filling in for the weekend, he finishes 7th. Antonio Felix DaCosta, Sergio Sette Camara, and Jake Hughes round out the top 10. Now, Pascal Wehrlein had a chance to keep things running past this weekend. With Saturday's results, he extended it to Sunday. But with Sunday morning's results, just too much for anybody else to overcome. So Rowland will be crowned the new Formula E champion officially at the end of the season after the doubleheader weekend in London. That's next weekend, July 26th and 27th. But he is your champion in waiting if you want. After that weekend, here's the points rundown. Rowland, 184 points, 125 for Wehrlein. Can't overcome it mathematically.
Nope.
Rookie Taylor Bernard in there with 112. Antonio Felix DaCosta, 103. Nick Cassidy, 102 for the top 5. Still waiting to settle the team title, however. Tag Heuer Porsche holds the lead, 228 to 205 for Nissan. Then you got DS Penske with 168. I don't think mathematically they've got a chance to win it.
Doubtful.
Yeah.
Very doubtful.
It's pretty much a 2-horse race here.
Yep.
Jaguar 162, McLaren 143, 142 for Mahindra. Andretti's got 125, 90 for Maserati, and Vision's got a 86, 82 for Cooper Kiro, and there's Lola Yamaha holding down the basement very, very well. They sit with 30. As far as the manufacturer standings, Porsche's on top there. This is still up for grabs. They hold a slim 342 to 335 point lead over Nissan there. Jaguar's in at 279, Stellantis 242, Mahindra 169.46 for Lola. That brings us to Saturday's IHRA finals getting delayed to Sunday because cooling temperatures, they ended up, as we talked about during the scheduling last week, they decided to put the finals in the evening. They were going to run it under the lights. But things started to cool down so quickly that it caused, you kind of said, kind of dew on the track, basically.
Dew was setting. I was
slick conditions at Hebron, Ohio.
Yeah, I watched the finals on Speed Sport TV.
Yeah,
and they did a very good job with the streaming of the whole product, start to finish. It was a very good job by Speed Sport, but with a couple of delays, with some engine failures, a couple of accidents that happened, because at National Trail, they did have quite a time having cars getting hooked up.
Yeah.
They had a hard time with it. And then, like I said, due to a couple accidents that happened right when they got to the last few rounds of Nitro, there was just, the track was just way too slick, and nobody could hold the track, so they postponed it to Sunday, which made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Safety purposes should come first. First race of the Outlaw Nitro Series races of 2025 Top Fuel and Funny Car Top Fuel, down to a battle between Scott Palmer and Krista Baldwin. Palmer gets the better of the battle. Easy for me to say, and I wrote it. 3.958 ET at 314.24 miles per hour. He gets the win and a $50,000 bonus, along with the IHRA Ironman trophy that goes with the event win. Funny Car came down to a battle between Mike McIntyre and former IHRA champion and a guy who should be familiar to NHRA people as well, Del Worsham. McIntyre with a .020 reaction time. Can't get much better than that. He rolls to the win, 4.166 ET, 293.41 miles per hour. Gets the trophy and a $50,000 bonus as well. Pro Modified also ran. Frankie Madman Taylor gets the win, helped win his opponent, Mike Domenico. I knew I was going to mess that name up. Had to shut his racer off before he even staged. Taylor's run, mandatory to ensure the win, was a show. He put it on. 3.726 ET, 199.64 miles per hour.
By far, out of every round race that was run in that entire weekend, the Funny Car final was by far the race of the weekend.
There you go.
By far.
We'll keep an eye on the IHRA as we continue on, taking us back to Iowa for IndyCar. Alex Palou said, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I remember that. I'm supposed to win. So that was the yes and the no part. The no was Saturday when he didn't win. Sunday, yes, he did, and he dominated, led 194 of the 275 laps, cruises to the win. Bests his Chip Ganassi Racing teammate Scott Dixon to the checkered flag. Marcus Armstrong ended up third, trailed by David Malukas. Pato Award, Christian Lundgaard, Felix Rosenquist, Christian Rasmussen, rookie Robert Schwartzman in there, and Joseph Newgarden, who finished second the day before, rounds out the top 10. So after the weekend, here's what's going on points-wise, and not surprisingly, atop the standings with a pretty massive lead. 515 to 386, Alex Palou over Pato Award. That's first and second. Third place is Scott Dixon with 342. Kyle Kirkwood at 335, and then Christian Lundgaard just inside the top 5 with 300. Rookie race, Louis Foster still on top in the Rookie of the Year standings, 150 points, but Robert Schwartzman right there with 145. Jacob Abel is in third. He's got 88. Mostly car in that situation, or would you state that maybe Jacob is in over his head?
I'm honestly going to say it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's a little bit of both.
So in this case, two quasi-negatives certainly don't make a positive.
Right.
Then there's Honda. Honda won one of the races, but Chevrolet finally got a race win this year.
Yeah.
Yay. That was awards run on Saturday. Manufacturer's points lead for Honda over Chevrolet sits at a tidy 1,147 to 939. We got 5 races to go. You're going to need more than just one win, Chevrolet. For those of you that are into classic rock, you probably know the Meatloaf song, 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. We've kind of referenced that here on the show from time to time. For Shane Van Gisbergen, it turned out that 3 out of 4 is pretty good. He claimed the pole for the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. Told you that. Then he claimed the Cup Series race pole and the win for the Cup Series. That's 2 race wins in a row for the Kiwi-born driver, and 3 out of the last, 5?
Mm-hmm.
Good grief. He led 97 of the laps run. That bested Jeff Gordon's previous mark of 92 laps led in a Sonoma win. That was set back in 2004. In the process, he ties Gordon in another area, wins his 3rd straight road course race, something Gordon did in 1998 and 1999 when the Cup Series ran only 2 road courses in a season. In the process, claimed his 4th Cup Series win, doing so in his 34th Cup start. That makes him the quickest to get to 4 since Parnelli Jones, who did it in his 31st start back in 1967. We'll also get back to how historical Shane Van Gisbergen's run is because he puts himself up there all time on road courses within the Cup Series. Second place finisher Chase Briscoe could, as opposed to the field in Mexico City, for example, keep SVG in sight. He just couldn't get to him. He claimed second, trailed by a pretty good gap at the checkers, too. Chase Elliott third, Michael McDowell fourth, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch round out the top 10. So here's the rundown. In seed order for the 2025 winners, you either have 3 wins, like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and now SVG all do, or you've got 1 win, like William Byron, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, and Josh Berry. Or you have no wins and you're fighting to get in on points. Those who are in there now are Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman, and Bubba Wallace. Wallace not comfortable by any stretch. He only holds a slim 3-point lead over Ryan Preece for that last slot, and they're going to a track that acts a lot like a short track, which is kind of Ryan Preece's specialty.
Yes, it is.
So we'll see whether things change after this weekend. Speaking of, here's your slate of racing for this weekend. Starts with the Xfinity Series running the Bet Rivers 200 at Dover Motor Speedway. Airs on the CW Network and PRN Radio. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Sunday, Indycar gets things rolling. They're going to run the Ontario Honda Dealers Indy Toronto race on the streets of that city. There's a mouthful. 11 turns, 1.786 miles long. It'll air on Fox and IRN Radio at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central race time start. Cup Series then goes to the Monster Mile. It's the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400 at Dover Motor Speedway. That'll be on TNT and PRN Radio, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time for the race start. And then the NHRA is heading out west. They begin their West Coast swing with the, here's a good one for you, Muckleshoot Casino Resort NHRA Northwest Nationals. It's in Kent, Washington, just outside of Seattle. Actual eliminations on Sunday start at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Central. Think about this. They're in the Pacific time zone. That's a 7:30 a.m. crank. Whew. Nice. Wake up, boys and girls. Fox is going to air this kind of somewhat delayed as the eliminations come down to it, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. So that means Craftsman Truck Series, Formula One, IHRA, and Formula E, as we cover them, are all off this weekend.
It reminds me of that 8 o'clock ARCA start at Talladega that time. Hey, wake up.
Yeah.
Here we go.
If you live in the area, hope you enjoy the sound of loud engines, because you're going to get them. All right, that wraps up first segment. When we come back, we're actually going to kick off with IndyCar, because concussions have been a big, big topic of conversation around the sports world, really, and especially in the racing world lately. I mean, think about it. Kind of ended the careers of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kurt Busch. We'll talk about a young kid suffering one.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome in. We appreciate it, and thank you for joining us this weekend. I'm Steve West. Matt Nicholson back from his surgery break. We appreciate his return as long as he can today, and of course, producer John on CRN Live on YouTube, as long as possible anyway. Hearing that there's some storms up through the area that we might need to be aware of, and who knows, there could be a reason for Matt to take over on the CRN Live feed. We'll find out. In the meantime, when the IndyCar Series got the second race of their doubleheader weekend rolling at Iowa Speedway, one of the top 5 qualifiers for the race was Nolan Siegel. But he wasn't on the track. He hadn't been cleared by IndyCar medical officials after a crash Saturday evening during the first race of that weekend. Now, Siegel's crash caused him to be diagnosed with a concussion on Saturday, and it prompted the medical personnel to refuse to let him race on Sunday. Said he would be reevaluated in time for this weekend's race in Canada, and instead of rushing to try to find a replacement driver, Arrow McLaren decided they were going to park the car, so it resulted in 26 starters. I heard word, and I don't know whether this is 100% true or not, they were going to put Tony Kanaan in the car and do a start and park, but IndyCar officials nixed the whole start and park idea.
From what I understand, yes, they did nix the start and park idea, but because partly it's not allowed in IndyCar rules.
Yeah.
And two, even though he did a refresher for Indianapolis, he still would have had to do a quick refresher session for Iowa just to even start, which that's absolutely sad that you think.
I'm sorry, it's ridiculous.
An Indianapolis 500 winner and a multi-time race winner would have to do a refresher course.
Yeah,
and
who did a refresher course at Indianapolis.
And he's this team principal that knows these cars better than probably any other team principal in the paddock.
Yeah.
But I think they was trying to do it because they're right there in that Leaders Club bonus zone. But I think that they got just the attempt points, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Siegel said afterward about being sat out, quote, "There's no place I'd rather be than out there driving today, especially one of my best starting positions of the season. But I know I'm in good hands with the IndyCar medical team and thank them for the great care that they provide to us drivers." Now, on the chance, let's take this in chronological order, shall we? On the chance that IndyCar officials would not clear Nolan Siegel to drive this weekend in Toronto due to that concussion he suffered last weekend, Arrow McLaren brought in former Chip Ganassi racing driver and hotshot kid Linus Lundqvist, who I'm surprised doesn't have a full-time ride this year. He was set to be on standby. Siegel not going to need that reserve driver, however. Just yesterday, as we air live on this Saturday morning, IndyCar medical personnel cleared the young driver. He will race in tomorrow's Ontario Honda Dealers Indy Grand Prix. Late on Monday, the team released a statement, said that he would be evaluated Thursday morning ahead of his travel to Toronto. And again, that all worked out in Nolan Siegel's favor. So just be careful out there, man. That's all we can ask. Alex Palou. I want to talk about dominant. This is like Max Verstappen a couple of years ago. He's trying to wipe the field effectively.
Yeah, he is.
He's up to 7 wins on the year, puts him in fairly elite company. He's one of only 7 drivers in IndyCar history to claim at least 7 wins in a season, first accomplished by, I know everyone will be shocked by this, AJ Foyt. Then he was equaled by Alex Zanardi, Juan Pablo Montoya, Paul Tracy, Cristiano D'Amata, remember him, and most recently Sebastian Bourdais before Palou turned the trick this year. Now, here's the thing. 7 wins in a season is not the all-time record. This is a number that Alex Palou can get. Remember, as I said, there are 5 races left in the year. The number for races won in a year, 10. Done by, I know you'll be shocked by this, AJ Foyt. Not once, but twice. Also, the 1964 being the most recent one. Al Unser matched that in the 1970 season. So with 5 more, again, points races to go this year, 3 more wins, not out of the question to tie it. 4, certainly not out of the realm of possibility, considering how dominant he's been. And the race he's been running, claiming 7 wins out of a dozen races so far. Yeah, I don't know whether it will happen, but it certainly is within the realm of possibility.
Right.
Time will tell. I mean, is this one of those more dominant seasons on record? Yeah, I would say it already is, truth be told. Then there's Juncos Hollinger Racing. They're bullish on their future, but let's just say that Iowa is it's a weekend they'd like to forget. How's that? We'll just go that way.
Yeah.
For the details on the track, Stingray Robb could not get his 77 car to move forward, so he finishes 22nd on Saturday. Sunday, he crashes out. He officially finishes 23rd. Then the team loads up in the hauler. They begin to work their way back to the team shop, but it caught on fire. It made more problems for the organization, who needed to really kind of be able to get things loaded up and hit the road by Thursday to head out to Toronto. They did indeed make that happen, but when it comes to the hauler, things early in the week, that was still uncertain. The things that were salvageable were offloaded, transferred over to another truck, and hauled back to the team shop. A team statement said this, quote, after an early retirement, the number 77 car, our hauler, caught fire on I-74 while heading back to the shop. It was a scary moment for the team, but thankfully everybody is safe, and that's what matters most. We've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, messages, and well wishes from fans, fellow teams, IndyCar officials, and the entire racing community. It's a reminder of the incredible family that we have in this sport. And you and I, we've talked about this. You know, we're competitors, and I use the term we very loosely. But we're competitors on the track. And yeah, every once in a while we get to the point where we kind of ruffle feathers, get ticked off at each other on or off the track for whatever purpose. But when it gets right down to the nitty gritty, we're all supporting each other.
Yeah. That's the definition of family in motorsports.
Yeah. You'd sit there and you'd think, well, why would I help them? For the betterment of the sport. Really, to be honest with you.
There was an old saying, especially with us in dirt racing. until you cross over the hill, you've got friends.
There you go.
But when you cross over the hill, game on.
Yeah, exactly. The statement went on to say, we are assessing the damage and will be working hard to get back on track. Thank you for everything. Your support fuels our determination. Now, in the aftermath of the fire, JHR reported that several teams actually stepped up to offer more than just a hand or vocal support. Team principal Dave O'Neill told media late this week, quote, we had offers from all around. Bigger teams like Andretti, McLaren, Ganassi, to name a few. We elected to borrow a trailer offered up by Andretti, but it actually didn't measure up to fit our equipment, so we ended up using a smaller Indy Next trailer that we had to put it all in. But we had the offers. It was brilliant from everyone. IndyCar president Doug Bowles rang me up, asked me whether he needed to arrange a team manager's meeting to see if there was any way we could get equipment or car parts or radios or anything together that we might need. It was an absolutely brilliant idea, but luckily we didn't need to borrow anything major, except a trailer, which I guess was theirs. I mean, that's kind of what I'm gathering, that the Indy Next trailer might have actually been theirs.
Yeah, they've got an Indy Next team with a trailer. Yeah.
So... nice to have that on hand.
The trailers, they say this or say that. Those trailers are all a baseline stock size. They will fit just about anything and everything needed.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on what the size of your toolbox is compared to what the size of the Andretti toolbox in this case might be.
True.
O'Neill also noted how hard the team worked in the aftermath of the fire, said Thursday, quote, the crew stayed until midnight every night. They're flying to Toronto this morning. Trucks left yesterday. This was all yesterday, Friday, as he was talking about it. 1 in the morning, 1 late. So just to rewind, trailer burned down. We had 3 trailers from our shop drive through the night back down to the burnt trailer, unloaded the burnt trailer, put the car in the 20-foot trailer, then had that driven to the factory so we could get to work started on it right away. And then the other trucks that were down there, smaller trailers, all unloaded the burned and smoke damaged stuff, got them back, brought them back. Then the 77 crew helped the 76 crew turn Connor Daly's car around, so Connor's car was done in a day. And then we got to the damaged car because Stingray crashed in Iowa, got here. We had to clean all the smoke damage off that, take all the crashed parts, clean it up, get it ready. So then the 76 crew and 77 crew worked to rebuild Stingray's car for Toronto. We dragged the burnt trailer back to Indy with nothing in it. We had it back in the base, all to assess the damage. And then the rest of the factory, office staff, truckies, engineers, everyone, they worked until midnight every night, cleaning, washing all this stuff with Dawn. Well, nice advertisement for Dawn dish detergent there. Gets all the crew clothing out that was in there, smoked, took it down to the laundrette, cleaned it because all the fire suits were in there and all the radios, they all needed cleaning because they had smoke damage. Luckily, it wasn't the awning truck that burnt, but the awning poles were in the 77 truck. They got warped from the fire, so we had to get new awning poles made. It was a Herculean effort by the team in almost no time. We definitely felt supported from the community. People ringing up asking if there's anything they could do to help with, but it was basically cleaning everything, throwing away the burnt stuff, writing a list to buy the new stuff, and get it done all in 2 days. For them, actually, it's probably a good thing that they were racing as relatively close as they were.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a very long haul.
Yeah. Iowa to Indiana is a lot of flat, I'll admit it, but all things being equal, it could have been a lot worse. They could have been out on the West Coast, over in Portland, for example, which would have made that much harder. So glad to hear that they were able to get it done. Mm-hmm. Then there's Ed Carpenter Racing. They're expanding their shop. They're set to move to a new state-of-the-art facility in the town of Westfield, Indiana, in time for the start of the 2027 season. They're going to be the first IndyCar team to be based up in Hamilton County. This is northeast of downtown Indianapolis, if I've got my maps correct. It was in a part of the town called the Grand Park District Master Plan. This is the town's and the county's blueprint for expansion of their so-called sports complex. Facility is going to be a ground-up, brand-new building. It's expected to be all of 76,000 square feet. Will have their advanced engineering and tech departments now in-house instead of a separate facility. There will be a fan engagement and retail aspect included as well. Fans touring the facility are going to have a coffee shop inside. This goes to one of their sponsors, by the way. They'll have a merch area inside, and a public viewing area so they can watch work being done if they happen to hit that at the right time. This is just the last or latest team that is either built or is building or has moved recently into a new facility within the past couple of years. Announcements that include Andretti Global. We've talked about theirs. Arrow McLaren has got themselves a new one. Rahal Letterman Lanigan, AJ Foyt, and Prima all either are or have moved into or have plans to move into a new facility.
Hamilton County is actually due north of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Up above the 465 loop where 69 goes to, and it has Noblesville, Fishers, Carmel, Westfield where they're going, and places like that.
Okay. Jeffrey asked on CRN Live if we had any pictures of the burned trailer. Unfortunately, I don't. Somebody might, but I was not able to get a hold of them.
Yeah, so, there's not any.
Yeah, so no, unfortunately, have no pictures of that.
They're the one that I did see, but it's not there anymore. Basically, what it was is there was a wheel bearing that burnt, and it caught fire when one of the rear axles, and it burned that area. It got hot, and it got hot. Of course. Yeah. It got up into the trailer area. The trailer wasn't a total loss, but it had some substantial damage.
So
the trailer
based upon, I was about to say, based upon what you're seeing, basically it could be rebuilt.
Yeah, they could be repaired. I mean, just trailers and wheel bearing season up catching fire. That's actually more common on stuff like that than you realize.
Yeah. I want to take a break here because when we come back, I want to talk about this. This is something that was also mentioned on the chat, and I don't know whether they knew. Obviously, they didn't. I didn't send them the basic rundown of this weekend's show. But while the racing actually turned out to be pretty good at Iowa Speedway, there wasn't a whole lot of people on hand to see it. And that could be a problem when it comes to the future scheduling. And I've talked about it at the beginning of the show. We're going to talk scheduling in 2026 for IndyCar and NASCAR. It's next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
It's time to unlock.
Championship Racing Network.
Well, as Jeffrey notes here, things must be pretty good in IndyCar for all these new shops. And yeah, they are. I mean, the Fox TV rights deal, not an inexpensive thing for Fox. Ratings overall are up over last year. But to go with the good, there's the bad, right? And that brings us to Iowa Speedway. And IndyCar's got a decision to make when it comes to the future scheduling of that short track. If you watch the race, you probably noted this in the fact that there's also the tale of good and bad. The good is the fact that this year's racing better than last year. Last year was basically follow the leader in an exhibition race. This year, however, despite the racing being better, few people were on hand to watch it. Despite Saturday being a major boost in TV viewership from 2024, it was still under 600,000 people overall. That's Saturday's race. But there's a caveat to that as well. The percentage of increase was a ridiculous, like almost 600% increase over what it was last year.
Yeah.
But there's a historical aspect to it because the first race of the 2024 doubleheader race in Iowa, that was shunted from NBC to CNBC, which nobody can find, because of the shooting of then presidential nominee Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. That was the exact same day, and NBC went wall-to-wall coverage on that. Sunday's race last weekend didn't do much better on television. As for the grandstands, they were, well, just to be, I guess, cute with it, there were a number of fans disguised as empty seats.
Yep.
IndyCar notes that this was partly due to the loss of the local grocery chain Hy-Vee as the title sponsor of the weekend. Hy-Vee being also great promoters of that race, and the fact that they were willing to go out and for not really a whole lot, able to pull in some pretty big name performers for concerts that happened both before and after the races on Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. And that really didn't happen this past weekend.
Yeah, nothing.
Current sponsor, well thought of in Iowa, Sukup, they didn't have the promotional power and certainly didn't have the pull that Hy-Vee did to be able to go out and get concert artists that were of the same level. Penske Entertainment didn't seem to do that good of a job of picking up the slack in promotional activities either. And that, I think, is also on them. So this all leaves Penske Entertainment VP Michael Montry, who oversees the making of each year's schedule, not the promotional aspect side of it, with several things to consider, not the least of which is whether to replace Iowa Speedway on the slate. Here's the question. If he decides not to go back to Iowa, what are you going to do to fill that slot? Because that's 2 races. You're already sitting at 17, which, again, I've said this on several occasions over the past couple of weeks, I think is too low.
Yeah, way too low.
And now you're going to drop 2 races down to 15? What are you going to do to fill that position?
It needs to go, but Iowa needs to go back to the nighttime slot that it was in.
That'd be a good start.
That would be the start, because from someone that has been day races, many day races versus many night races.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody was to ask me the question, would you prefer night or day? I'm going to, without blinking an eye, say night.
Sure, yeah.
Weather, overall atmosphere is much better at a night race versus a day race.
Yeah. And, you know,
Call a spade, but that is the truth.
And I get geographically where Iowa is, but you're still talking about in the middle of July.
True, but
in blazing sun.
Yeah, but the difference between 93 and 78, that time of the year, monstrous difference.
Yeah, but there's a lot of humidity in the area. We talked about it Friday, had that tornadic activity and other storms that were in the area. So all of that does kind of lend into it. Montry talked to Racer.com early this week, said this, quote, "This year was definitely a reset for us after 3 years of having A-list concerts, 2 per day over the course of the weekend, and Hy-Vee support there. This year not having any of that. This was also a reset where we tried to focus more on the on-track product. Thought the on-track product was better than last year. There's no doubt. Like a racetrack coming in after the new asphalt went down last year, created what it created. This year, with a year through the Iowa winter and everything else, I thought it raced better for sure. I feel like we connected more with what I would call the more traditional race fan this year than we have over the last 3 years. There were a couple of different metrics that we use. It was pretty evident that the crowd was race-oriented as far as the reason that they were there. That's fairly obvious to say based upon the program. In other words, without the large music acts that we had at the track. Obviously, we would have loved to have had more people in the grandstands. It's something you face with a reset. Any scheduling decisions we make, no one person makes those. Made with the leadership at IndyCar. Scheduling's all a part of it. Particularly with some of those ovals in the Midwest that happen to fall in the middle of the day. I think we saw some positive results this year with St. Louis, Worldwide Tech Raceway. And what we were able to do there, he said, and he continued, with Fox's help, we're going to move it to a night race there. So that's something I think would be a positive if there's such a window available. I would probably weigh in its favor. Gave still no hint as to what to expect and when we might be able to expect a full 2026 schedule. So going back to what you said, at least he's open to the idea of putting it at night, which kind of duh, right?
Yeah, that's a duh moment when you look at like for today, Newton Iowa's weather, 91's the high, 77's the low.
Yeah.
What do you think the crowd's going to cater to? The lower temperature, even though it may be a little bit humid, the lower temperature, no baking in the sun. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, exactly. And, he references Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. I mean, he and Fox were willing to go and put that race on a Sunday night, edging into the prime time schedule.
Right.
If they're willing to do that with St. Louis, certainly they'd be more than willing to do that with Iowa.
Sure.
I mean, This isn't interfering with their major TV schedule throughout the course of the season because we're still in the summertime. They're still running reruns unless they're showing some sort of insipid reality show.
True. Very true.
What are you missing? Nothing.
You're really missing nothing. Exactly.
So we'll see whether or not they actually do this or not. And again, we're waiting on their scheduling, but it does seem to feel like some pieces are beginning to fall into place when it comes to the idea of getting schedules put together. And that's not just in IndyCar, it's also in NASCAR, and we'll be getting to that here shortly. But I want to talk about Formula One here as we move on to the next thing with Haas F1. Their connections with Toyota continue to make us kind of wonder what's maybe the future over there. Continues to expand out. News of where they're going to be running a TPC test. This is a testing of previous car event. They're going to Fuji International Speedway next month. They're going to be putting 2 Toyota Gazoo racing drivers into their cars. Haas is breaking out their 2023 racers for a name familiar to anybody who has been following what Haas F1 has been doing since the Toyota partnership developed late last year. Ryo Hirakawa, who's now also, by the way, their main reserve driver. And they're going to pair him with a kid by the name of Sho Tsuboi. Tsuboi. Tsuboi, I think is how you would pronounce that. That's how I'm pronouncing it. If I got it wrong, I apologize. He is the defending Super Formula and a 3-time Super GT titleist. He's going to get his first taste of Formula One action with this. Again, this is a 2-year-old car, and it's at Fuji Speedway. Haas F1 can't get any information from this that's going to help them out. Toyota Gazoo Racing's head of global motorsports, Masaya Kaji, also added this, quote, additionally, listen to this very carefully. Additionally, Toyota Motor Corporation's mechanics and engineers will be present, making this a valuable learning opportunity for them as well. Experiencing the technologies and skills required on the world's highest stage of F1 up close will surely be a significant experience for their growth. Together with MoneyGram Haas F1 team, we aim not only to promote the growth of each driver, engineer, and mechanic through such challenges, but also to enhance their technical skills. We believe that the experiences gained will be passed down to the next generation, contributing to the overall improvement of competition and technology levels in the motorsports industry. I've been wondering since this was announced late last year exactly what was going on, considering that the partnership with Haas F1 and Ferrari has been in existence since they announced that they got a team. Mm-hmm. But it certainly does seem like Toyota's taken a much more front and center seat when it comes to the activities of what's going on at Haas F1.
They have. It seems that they have. But let's start seeing what you're doing. As in, like, hey, we maybe can do an engine or something. Let's get into the engine manufacturers and have a factory team or works team or whatever. However you want to look at it. Because you cannot tell me that there is not a blueprint somewhere that Toyota can follow and have Toyota's got the resources to do it, to develop an engine in a fairly quick amount of time.
Sure. And as we talked about last week, they're pulling out of the NHRA, so that racing money's going to go somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it's going to go somewhere. It's got to.
And with this, again, this is becoming a much more high-profile situation. We know that Toyota may not want to do a full works team. They tried that, 20 years ago? And it didn't work. But in this case, they don't have to necessarily worry about the works side of it. They can just build a power plant.
Oh, yeah.
And get involved with Haas F1 in that way if they so choose. And if Haas F1 decides that they're going to say, you know what? Yeah, thanks, Ferrari, but we're going to try our own thing.
And honestly, to me, it would make sense for Haas to do so.
Yeah, because otherwise I think you're always going to be, you're always going to take the back seat. I mean,
yeah, because they got to do something, because really the only Ferrari powered cars that are on the grid now is Ferrari's house team and Haas.
Yeah, and do they really want to see their supplier or supplyee or whatever it is be the one that bests them? No. And then now you've got Cadillac coming in. They're going to run Ferrari engines for a few years. Mm-hmm.
So is Haas going to be B team, or are they going to be C team?
And judging from the things that I'm hearing out of Cadillac, they're already setting themselves up to be the Ferrari B team, because they're putting a massive investment in this. I watched a YouTube thing, and it sounded okay. It's YouTube, right? No, these guys actually got inside, talked with the team principal Graham Loudon, and got a look inside the shops. And I say that very, very openly, in both Indiana and in England, and talked about how they were getting the support out of the GM districts in Detroit and Charlotte, and how everything was coming together, and how they already have about 600 employees, and they think that that's still only about 2/3 of where they ultimately would like to be. Their 600 employees right now dwarfs what Haas F1 has. And they've been around for a decade.
And then some.
So, yeah, I do kind of wonder ultimately where this partnership with Toyota is going. And I'm not saying that it's going to be a bad thing. This might actually ultimately benefit Haas F1 in a big way if they can get out from under Ferrari's shadow. But we're still waiting to see what's going to happen there. And Ferrari doesn't seem to be complaining about it either. So, again, we'll see.
Yeah.
Then there's the TV negotiations for here in the United States. They're up for grabs at the end of the year. The contract is up with Sky Sports covering or re-airing Sky Sports on ESPN. Formula One management, this is separate from Liberty Media, by the way. Liberty Media is the commercial rights holders. But Formula One management insists, for example, that F1 TV, the streaming rights service that's available on several platforms, is going to go on, regardless of whatever entity gets the rights ultimately to show F1 races from 2026 on. So if you've been checking that out on Tubi, or there's a couple of other different streaming services that have Formula One, F1 TV, you're still going to get that, so they say. But Motorsport.com now reports that the Apple Plus bid is somewhere in the area of $150 million per year. That's significant because that's not quite twice the amount that ESPN is currently paying Sky Sports. And Motorsport.com is saying that ESPN seems a little less than willing to try to match that offer at this time. Right now, it's only a report. It's not confirmed by any party actually involved in the bidding process, but Motorsport.com usually has their finger on the pulse of things going on in the world. Either way, the F1 management group is still wanting to ensure the future of the aforementioned F1 TV, so that does seem to be maybe that they're going to separate those two things out. Mm-hmm. Going back to the Apple Plus side, Apple Plus is working up other Formula One related projects. Now, obviously, we've talked about the fact that Apple Movies, another arm of the company, did F1 the movie, which is still out in movie theaters right now. They're also working on a documentary about 7-time F1 champion Lewis Hamilton. Company CEO Tim Cook told Reuters about this, quote, "Lewis is very inspiring for me. Came from a working class family, broke all of the then rules, quote unquote, about who was going to be driving and who couldn't drive. Started with a go-kart. Now he's an F1 driver. It's an incredible life story. Fortunately, we're also doing a documentary on Lewis, and I can't wait. Can't wait because I think it's a ripple in the pond that's going to inspire millions of people. I look forward to hearing it. I love learning about people. I remember the old A&E show Biography. I just relished watching that. I loved watching VH1's behind. I know I'm aging myself on this. VH1's behind the music. I love learning about people, and I love learning about things.
Yeah.
My wife looks at me and goes, "You watch documentaries all the time." And I look at her like, "Is that a problem?" Is it really inspiring to everybody? No, but it's what I like, and it's why I routinely kick her butt when it comes to trivia and Jeopardy. I mean, I'm sorry, babe, but it's the truth.
As a salute to our buddy, the answer is Dirk Nowitzki. He knows who he is.
Yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki will always be the answer.
Pretty much. One more note in Formula One here as we round out hour number one. Wednesday night, you may have missed it. It was actually on ESPN, or on ABC, I think. But ESPN handed out their annual ESPY Awards for the best in sports. I'm not going to bother you with all the details. You can go look all that stuff up. But in case you didn't watch it and are just curious, every year they got the best driver honoree. And this was the only time that motorsports got into this year's ESPY Awards. Sometimes they'll get into a couple of others like best championship performance or whatever, but they didn't get that this year. Mm-hmm. Best driver honoree. Yeah, I know you'll be shocked by this. 4-time defending F1 champion Max Verstappen bested out Joey Logano and Alex Palou, among others. I get it. This year, probably going to be different. Just saying.
Probably so.
Because it doesn't look like Max Verstappen's going to get the title this coming year. He actually took on Oscar Piastri, too. Could he be on the inside lane for the championship of the ESPY Award next year?
Doubt it.
Just saying.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right. Welcome into hour number 2. Steve West, Matt Nicholson here in studio. Producer John up there on the YouTubes as soon as he can get back over to it. We appreciate all of his efforts because he's dealing with a couple of things. There's weather in the area. We got a weather map up here in the studio of the palatial studios here at 95.1 The Mountain. And I can see where the storms are moving into the area, so hopefully that won't knock out power. Or if it does, it'll wait until after we're off the air here in less than an hour. But he's also dealing with an invasion. Apparently he got wildlife that came into the house, and he found it in the washing machine of all places. My question is this. Did the possum that's sitting in his washing machine go through the wash-rinse cycle? I mean, is he clean now, or did they catch him before he started the wash? I'm just asking. Inquiring minds want to know, John. I know, I'm making fun of that. I apologize, brother. Good luck with it. Hope you can get him out of the house within the next 15 minutes or so before we go to the next break. Things might be getting a little bit hot behind the wheel in the Cup Series. The thing about this is that Ty Gibbs being upset may, and I emphasize may, have led to a scuffle on pit road. We see this a lot. Road courses and short tracks, as we've said, they're very, very similar in the fact that you get a lot of pack racing and a lot of beating and banging, and because of that, it leads to short tempers, right? Well, Gibbs was battling with Chris Buescher during stage 2 last weekend. Buescher got into the back of Gibbs, sent him wide into turn 11. Well, soon, Gibbs was planning a pit stop, and as it turned out, so was Buescher's RFK Racing teammate Brad Keselowski. As it turned out, Keselowski was pitting right behind Gibbs. So as the 6 crew waited on the 2012 champion, Gibbs came through the corner of the number 6 pit box, caught the 50, and the 54 caught the wheel that a crew member for the 6 was carrying. And when the pit stops were complete and the cars had rolled off, the tire carrier walked over to the 54 crew and started to jaw at him, and it led to a shoving match. No penalty was given to Gibbs at the time. NASCAR is claiming that despite hitting the crew member, Gibbs actually did nothing wrong, so there are no penalties there. And I've seen the video of this, and you are allowed certain leeway when it comes to, I'm just going to use the term, cutting through other pit stalls to get into yours. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen the video of this as well. I'll ask for your take on it.
I saw it happen in real time. I mean, coming into the pit box, you get allowance to run through 2 pit boxes coming in. But when you're on pit stop cycles and pit roads that tight, I honestly didn't see any malice out of it. But at the same time, you got to be aware of your surroundings, not only as the one sitting behind the wheel, but as the one that's going over the wall. I didn't see anything deliberate.
Yeah.
And there's several other people saying that they didn't see anything deliberate either.
Right. And that's pretty much NASCAR's.
Yeah, but it's
on the edge?
It's right there on a racer's edge.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. As a crew member, you got to be aware of it because pit road is a busy place.
Right.
But as a driver, there's got to be some awareness on your side as well because of the same exact situation. And you're the one ultimately in control of this 3,400, 3,500 pound beast.
That you are.
You know, and a crew member can only do so much to try and get out of the way, especially when you're carrying tires.
Right.
Which are not light by any stretch of the imagination.
The front tire carrier, he had it held pretty wide.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't tight or nothing. He was just like way out here.
Yeah.
So that's, like I said, that's kind of a razor's edge right there.
Yeah. Okay. Mentioned it just a minute ago in the fact that we could talk about drivers who have historic numbers of wins. We talked about it with Alex Palou in the IndyCar series. Well, SVG is also in there. He's added his name to a fairly elite list of drivers who have claimed 3 straight road and street course wins throughout the course of their career. There's the legend, David Pearson. He was the first to do it, claimed 3 in a row in 1976 going into 1977. And again, remember, this is back when the Cup Series was only running 2 road course races a year. The next to turn the trick is a guy who, if he had lived longer, was one of those guys that Dale Earnhardt Sr. said of, if he had lived, Davey Allison being the other, I wouldn't have 7 championships. Tim Richmond. He turned the trick in 1986 and 1987. Rusty Wallace then decided to pick up the mantle. He did it from 1987 into 1988. Next up, Tony Stewart did it from 2004 into 2005. And then you got Shane Van Gisbergen currently riding a 3-race heater on road and street courses. But 3 is not the end-all, be-all.
No.
There are guys who can better that. Dan Gurney, for example, can better it. He won 4 in a row from 1963 through 1966, when what is now the Cup Series only ran 1 road course race a year.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Elliott won 4 in a row from 2019 into 2020, just before we expanded out from the current from 2 then into what we're dealing with now. But then there's the Cup Series reigning king of road courses. That, of course, is Jeff Gordon. 4-time Cup Series champion, has the most wins on a road or street course of any driver in Cup history to date, 9 total. In the process of claiming those 9 total wins on road courses, he actually won 6 in a row from 1997 through 2000, which meant he dominated not only Sonoma, but Watkins Glen.
Yep.
So he's got 9. Tony Stewart's got 8. Chase Elliott has 7. I think he stands alone with 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember the list. I haven't seen it lately, so I can't remember if there's anybody that's got 6 or 5. We'll let him look that up here for a moment while we try and get all of this figured out. I don't know whether that gives you the total list or whether it's just the ones in a row.
It's...
Because I think I know which site you're looking at. So while he's looking that up, let's talk about the next thing on the list. Catherine Legg. Catherine Legg continues to get starts in the Cup Series with Live Fast Motorsports. Her next announced appearance, she's going to make a return to the Brickyard. Not necessarily in Cup Series action. This is just a return for her. Legg's going to drive the number 78 Chevrolet in the Brickyard 400 the last weekend of this month, next weekend. Returning to the track where she has actually 2 Indy 500 starts, one with Dale Coyne, the other with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Legg now, though, strangely enough, has more starts than NASCAR, 10 to her credit this year, with more scheduled, starting with the Brickyard 400 on August the 10th at Watkins Glen, and her final scheduled race at this time, which is October 12th at Las Vegas. She's got more starts now in NASCAR already than she ever did in IndyCar.
Right.
So congratulations to her. I would like to see her in better equipment, truth be told. I mean, I'm sorry, it's Live Fast Motorsports, and they're an open car, and they're a part-time car. And they were never really, even when they had a charter, that big of a threat. I mean, we made a big deal a couple of weeks ago about the fact that she finished inside the top 20. And for Live Fast, that is a huge deal.
Yep.
So.
All right. Only thing I was able to find, Gordon with 9,
Okay.
Stewart with 8, Elliott with 7, Ricky Rudd and Rusty Wallace with 6 each.
Oh, okay. Missed on that.
Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip with 5 apiece. Tim Richmond, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and obviously Shane Van Gisbergen with 4.
Okay.
Mark Martin, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, David Pearson, and Kyle Larson, 3 apiece.
Okay. So there you go. All right. So there are 6. There you go. My bad. I missed them. Oh, here we go. Let's talk a little scheduling for the Cup Series, shall we? It was mentioned on the CRN Live chat that there was a rumor about Chicago. And you might be right. Sports Business Journal adding more fuel to the fire that NASCAR might actually return to Chicago next year, but instead of going downtown to the street course, might be going to Joliet, Illinois' Chicagoland Speedway, the 1.5-mile tri-oval track that first hosted NASCAR back in 2001. But over the last, decade for the most part, it's been sat largely abandoned. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you think about the last generation of the Cup Series car that we had, 1.5-mile tri-oval racing was lackluster.
Very.
Has that changed?
Yes.
It could easily be argued, and we have stated so on this program, that the 1.5-mile tri-oval racing, and it's not just Atlanta, which has been exciting, but it's Kansas, it's Vegas, it's Texas, and others, may be the best racing right now and the strength of this Gen 7 Cup car.
Yes.
Now it seems, again, the most exciting, it's led more and more to the thought that NASCAR, which does own Chicagoland, might be willing to take racing back there despite it being about an hour outside of Chicago proper. There are hurdles. One of the bigger ones being the money to bring the facility back up to racing standards, because it's going to need probably a little bit more than a wash and wax to make sure that it's good. Again, it's been sitting idle for a number of years now. Refurbishment on a high level easily costs in the several hundred thousands of dollars, if not into the millions. At this time, there doesn't appear to be any work on the facility going on either.
I've seen photos of it. They're keeping the facility maintained.
Okay.
Like keeping the grass cut, keeping everything down.
Keeping weeds from coming up through the asphalt like we saw at Rockingham when you and I went over and looked at it the one time.
That's a different story. There are several weeds through there, but it's nothing that can't be. And I have seen a number of, they were going to take right around the neighborhood of about $5 million to upgrade and clean up and just get everything back up to snuff like it was when they left, which it was me. $5 million sounds a lot better to put a race on and get a facility ready than throwing $50 million up a wild hog's rear end for a majority, not everybody, but a majority of a city that really does not care about having their streets blocked off to run a race.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. On the back of that report, it would mean no street race in the city of Chicago, because you're not going to put two races that close, right? Leads Racer.com to report that a street race in San Diego is indeed a go. Now, NASCAR hasn't confirmed this. NASCAR has not confirmed this. This is Racer.com. I'm just trying to be complete. The site is reporting that a deal with city officials has been reached. The official announcement could come actually as soon as within the next week or so. And this was all even more backed up with the report late yesterday that officially the Chicago street race will not take place in 2026. They did put out a statement. The official social media page for the race, the Chicago street race, has a statement, says that they would be working with city officials and NASCAR, trying to put the race on a different date, and hoped to return to the schedule as soon as 2027. I don't know whether this is going to work. If you're going to Chicagoland.
Why?
If you're going to Chicagoland and you're going to put a significant amount of money into that, why would you do it for 1 year?
This doesn't make any sense.
A whole lot of this doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense of why we're not going back to the street court. Well, Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder could have sat on the front row at a church and could have told you that and seen that coming. But you've got competitors and former competitors that has raced at Chicagoland, has seen how well. No, I'm not under the influence of any medication that I'm dealing with, but how well that the mile and a halves have been for this specific car, and they're standing at the top of Mount Everest with a bullhorn screaming, "Go back to Chicagoland," and look what it's going to give you, because the surface is worn out.
Yeah.
You've got a mile and a half track. What has been the common theme of worn out surfaces and mile and a half tracks with this car?
The drivers love it.
Killer finishes.
Yeah.
Killer
Drivers
races.
love it.
Great races. Okay. Go back there. Why are we so hard pressed? I could say it another way, but this is about the cleanest way I can say it. Why are we so hard pressed on going to street courses, of shutting cities down that you know that the cities do not like? You cannot tell me there is one city that enjoys and loves having the streets shut down.
And certainly not the people that are around there.
Right, and not the ones that are accustomed to having it.
Yeah.
Toronto, it's been going on in Toronto for as long as I can remember in my existence. St. Petersburg, they love it. They're used to it. Okay. You've got WeatherTech. They do a couple of street events. They do it too. These cities are used to it. Not these cities that are not used to it. Chicago,
San Diego.
Lord have mercy. No, San Diego's going to be going, huh? And especially with the area that you're about to reveal that they're zeroed in on. That is, when you look at that, that is the absolute most ridiculous location you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So let's presume that the racer.com report is true. And again, this is a presumption because, again, this is the only site that's reporting it is racer.com, okay? Where might that race be held? Could be in downtown San Diego, or as we talked about just last week on the show, could be out, no, not on the show, on the podcast. I take that back. Could be out in Coronado near the naval base. Okay.
Picture me saying this in Ed Harris's voice, Admiral Kane,
Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick. I want them packed up and shipped out to North Island within the hour. Coronado is the home of North Island, the naval base that is one of the centerpieces of Top Gun Maverick. Why on God's green earth would we run a race on an island that has access to a naval base? Why? I cannot wrap my mind around it. The area around where the naval base is residential.
Yeah, you want to talk about people having a fit.
It's residential.
All right, here's the thing. We won't find out, obviously, until maybe the announcement becomes official in the next week or so, according to Racer.com. Truth of the matter is we're going to find all this out whenever they finally reveal the 2026 schedule for NASCAR. And it'll probably come out within days, within the same week, when we're going to get all three top series of NASCAR, Cup, Xfinity trucks. What's now Xfinity anyway, as they're in their last year. This would fill a hole that NASCAR has wanted to fill since they themselves created it. They shut down their own track in Fontana in 2023, but yet they still seem to want to have a race in Southern California, even though in this case it wouldn't be Los Angeles. Guys, this is the equivalent of making yourself a hero by being the firefighter who put out the fire that you yourself started. You dug the hole that is Fontana and said, but we still want to have a race in Southern California. You did this. You kneecapped yourself.
Say they go to Coronado. Say that we're going to race at Coronado. What are we going to do? You're on the track on the 2-lane road that crosses San Diego Bay. We're going to go to the K1 speed parking lot, do a 360, turn around, race back over the bay, because you don't have one naval station on Coronado. You have two. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado and the Naval Air Station North Island.
Are you... this, to me, goes even farther into the realm of probably not, but I'm going to ask it. Any chance that they use part of, if not, the naval base itself?
I don't see where in the world that a United States naval base military installation would let a sporting motorsports series come race on the base. There is no way in Hades that happens.
I wouldn't think.
What are they going to do? Are they going to put the paddock area at Coronado High School right in the middle of the island?
I don't know.
There is nowhere that I can I'm looking at the overhead satellite view on Google Maps right now. There is nowhere that I can physically see that you could have a legitimate, sufficient paddock area, because you can't block off state route. I'm gonna call it State Route 75.
Okay.
Okay, and then you've got. I'm gonna shut up because this is.
It's a logistical nightmare, is what this is.
At the end of the day, if this is where they're going, you add in Mexico City. They are creating more logistical disasters than they are focusing on what the product is they put on the racetrack. Yeah. 1, 2, having a properly officiated event.
Yeah,
that's really more 1B and 1A and 1B instead of 1 and 2. It's It doesn't add up.
It really seems like NASCAR officials have blinders on because they're so focused on the idea of having a race somewhere in Southern California that they can't see how much of I'll use the term again, a logistical nightmare. I could go with much stronger words, but I can't
I could go
because
with
we're on the
worse.
radio.
I could go with worse.
But they're creating their own logistical nightmare. They did it with the partial destruction of Fontana and then turning around and saying, oh, by the way, we still want to race in Southern California. And then to turn around and go, well, we'll go to San Diego, which has never had a presence in big-time motorsports.
Never.
You know, so kudos for thinking outside of the box. But at the same time, where are you going to go? You're now trying to take everybody all the way across the country, and you're going to, again, where are you going to put this? If you put it in downtown, you do the same thing that you did in Chicago. And if you take it out to Coronado, where the heck are you going to race? Because you're either messing with the residents, or you have to get ultimate permission to be able to allow fans to go onto the naval base, which is one of the busiest naval air stations on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're effectively going to shut it down for what? A day to get everything put together. And probably the weekend, because I doubt seriously this will be a standalone race for the Cup Series. They'll take the Cup Series and or the Truck Series along with them.
And you couldn't even set anything up sufficient enough to run around Petco Park. And Petco Park is literally across the bay from Coronado.
I don't know where they're going to go with this. I really don't. You're so enamored, NASCAR, of the idea of having a race in Southern California that you're going to grasp at straws.
And that's what it seems that 90% of the people that are in the offices of the sanctioning body, we're going, oh, which straw we're going to get today.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. Go back to basics.
Got to think this out better, NASCAR. Got to think it out better.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into CRN. I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers on CRN Live on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us wherever and however you are. Lawyer for 2311 and Front Row Motorsports filed a preliminary injunction for a restraining order that would have allowed the teams to remain with the charters that they have, basically, in response to the ruling we talked about on last week's show that vacated those very same charters, 3 for each team, that allowed them to race this year as though they had signed the charter agreement, even though they didn't, right? Okay, we know all that. In the filing for this round, the teams claimed that NASCAR, quote, has signaled its intention to immediately move or sell or issue plaintiffs' charters to other entities, putting plaintiffs in irreparable jeopardy of never getting their charters back and going out of business. Well, NASCAR's response to this in court was blunt, quote, it is unfortunate that instead of respecting the clear rulings of the Fourth Circuit, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are now burdening the district court with a third motion for another unnecessary and inappropriate preliminary injunction. This is getting nasty. As the Fourth Circuit and the district court suggested, NASCAR has made multiple requests to 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to present a proposal to resolve this litigation. We have yet to receive a proposal from 2311 or Front Row, as they have instead preferred to continue their damaging and distracting lawsuit. We will defend NASCAR's integrity from this baseless lawsuit forced upon the sport that threatens to divide the stakeholders committed to serving race fans everywhere. We remain focused on collaborating with the 13 race teams that signed the 2025 charter agreements and share our mutual goal of delivering the best racing in the world each week, including this weekend in Dover. So here we go, chronologically in order. That was early this week. Thursday, the judge in the case smacked down 2311 and Front Row, rejecting their request to continue their want to race with charters or act as though they still had them while the battle with NASCAR continues to go through the court system. So officially, this weekend in Dover, all 6 cars, the 3 from 2311 and the 3 from Front Row Motorsports, are considered open cars, non-chartered, and it likely will be that way for the foreseeable future. Here's the thing. U.S. District Judge Kenneth Bell, he denied the request for that temporary restraining order. This has the teams claiming they might be about ready to go out of business. I would say Front Row probably more in danger of that than 2311, but that's another story.
No, Bob's got more money. What you think?
Huh?
Bob Jenkins. He's got more money. What you think?
Well, I get that, but at the same time, he doesn't have Michael Jordan money.
True. There's through the underlying part of all this right here. There's something that I could point out to this to where I can see where their 2311 and Front Row is coming from.
Okay.
I can see that.
Let's finish this out and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. Bell said that he would, this is the interesting part of it to me, he would be willing to revisit his decision if things changed radically over the next couple of weeks, say from Dover through Indianapolis and the Brickyard 400. What the teams are now worried about is that NASCAR might make the sale process of the 6 charters for the pair of operations happen almost immediately, but in his rejection, Bell wrote this, quote, this is a fair and significant fear. However, NASCAR has agreed that it, quote, will not sell any charters before the court can rule on the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction, unquote. Well, didn't we just do that? Similarly, plaintiffs worry that denying them guaranteed entry into the field for the upcoming races could adversely impact their competitive standing, including their ability to earn a spot in the playoffs. Again, legitimate potential irreparable harm. Yet akin to the sale of the charters, NASCAR represents to the court that all the plaintiffs' cars will qualify if they choose to race for the races in Dover and Indianapolis that will take place during the next 14 days. And that's based upon the number of cars that are entered into those 2 races at this time. And neither one of them have 41. Again, you can have a starting field of 40.
If there are 6 cars that have no problem with making a field, it's these 6. They're not.
God, I would think so.
They're not going to have a problem making the field.
Yeah, and again, there have only been 2 races so far this year where we've had to worry about more than 40 entries, and that was the Daytona 500, which was taken care of through the qualifying races,
and based off of how the rule,
and the Chicago street race,
based off of how the rule book goes, if there are, let's say there are 5 open cars and there's 1 car that's going to go home. Say if it's one of those 6 cars that has an accident in qualifying, and something just like, we got a problem here. We didn't take the time. But say the 66 car, let's just use him for an example. That's one that doesn't start every race.
Mm-hmm.
The 66 car gets that other added time, gets that time in there. All right. Makes the time. Let's say it's Riley Earps that has an accident in qualifying. Let me backtrack. Let's say it's Bubba Wallace that has an accident in qualifying.
Okay. More high profile.
Yeah, more high profile. He has an accident. A tire blows or something that's out of his control, and he's not able to lay a time down. Based off of how the rule book sets, the higher position car in points gets the nod because by technicality, the open car, however, if you're an open car, that is a provisional, the top 32, that's a provisional, anything below 32, is provisionally based if needed. The 23 car would get the provisional because of his standing in points.
Yeah.
If anybody thinks, and whoever had this notion at Chicago, is if there was an open car and Bubba Wallace hadn't not gotten the time, which he didn't get the time in, I don't think, Bubba Wallace would have missed the field if he was, no, he wouldn't have.
No.
Do you think for one split second that they're going to, one of your higher profile drivers, do you think for one split second that they're going to let him miss the field? Absolutely not.
No.
Not when he falls within that category of the rules and he's playing by the rules and he falls within the boundary lines of them.
Yeah. And you go back to the points situation. Remember, these are cars that have started every race this year.
Exactly. They've started every single race this year.
And then you start to throw in the cars. We mentioned Catherine Legg. That's a part-time car. It's not even a full-time car. It's a part-time car.
Yeah.
So that automatically puts her on her heels when it comes to this. If there are more than 40 cars entered, that puts her on her heels. You mentioned the 66 car is another one.
44.
The 44 car for NY Racing. I'll throw it out there just for the giggles of it because it's still sitting in a garage somewhere. The Junior Motorsports number 40 entry. Mm-hmm. You know, you get all of these cars that suddenly decide that, you know, hey, let's go to the next crown jewel, which is the Brickyard 400. Right now, the entry list doesn't state 40, much less 41. But what if they all decided, well, now we have a better than even chance? Not necessarily, because, again, you're all part-time entries. You're on your heels against them because of what you just said, which is the fact that they're up there in points, owner and driver.
Anybody with common sense knows this is going to shake itself out and everything's going to go back to normal. All right. One, here's the point. The point on this I'm making is I can see where some of this is coming from. First off, let's say I'm fixing to get I want a charter. I'm fixing to have a cup team. I am preparing to shell out $30 million to get that charter to guarantee me a spot.
Which is about the area, if not a little bit more than what they're going for.
I see where they're coming from because if you pay, let's say it's anywhere between $25 and $45 million, because that's a number we've heard on the high end, that's a number we've heard on the low end. All right, $25 to $45 million. If I'm getting ready to shell out that much amount of money, why would I be paying that much amount of money just for a simple lease? That is technically a lease. If you're paying out that much money, you should be able to own it.
Mm-hmm.
That I can see where these teams, these two teams are saying that, and specifically because why would we lease something for that amount of money? No, go, oh, hey, you're not doing this right. Oh, we're taking it back.
Yeah.
You lost your money.
And NASCAR can do that. That is in the charter agreement that NASCAR can basically rip your charter away for any reason whatsoever.
Which my opinion is not right. If I'm a car owner and I'm fixing to put $30 million out, buy a charter, and I'm fixing to put Steve in my car, that's my eyes, that's my charter.
It should be.
Because 2311 with 3 charters, say if they average $30 million, that is $90 million tied up right there. just in charters alone.
Yeah.
Okay. That part right there. But second side of it, this judge and this district judge here, I can see why he's doing what he's doing, because reading through the smoke, not saying it, through the smoke that he's putting up, statements he's making, saying what he's saying, and all these rulings he's saying, he's basically telling them, y'all go to your room, take your toys, play it out, and let's end this, because this is stupid.
I mean, he set a date for the trial to begin on December the 1st, which is smart because that's after the Cup Series season is over. And it would even be after the award ceremony has taken place.
Sure.
And that's the way that it should be, obviously. But at the same time, this is also a leeway time. And he's even said it. Bell has even said this. Judge Bell has said, guys, I would really like to see you go work this out on your own. But, you know, NASCAR statement notwithstanding, I'm not really sure how willing either one of these two sides is willing to do that. Because I'm going to put 2311 in front row in the same court. They got the same lawyer. They got everything. So I'm going to put them in one camp, and I'm going to put NASCAR in the other. Mm-hmm. You know, NASCAR sits there and says that they're willing to negotiate, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not so certain how willing they are. You can say it all day long. That doesn't mean that it's true.
I think at the end of the day, it's more Denny trying to prove a point than Michael Jordan is. I think it's Denny trying to prove a point more.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Then there's the other lawsuit, this one between Rick Ware Racing and Legacy Motor Club. The virtual court hearing got held early this week regarding the announcement of the pending sale of the team to one of the founders of Spire Motorsports. We talked about him recently, TJ Pusher. Legacy MC is contending that it had an agreement with Rick Ware Racing to lease one of their two charters for 2026. Remember, Rick Ware Racing said that the agreement actually was for the 2027 season, and they already had a contract with RFK to lease them a charter for 2026. So that means they're basically going to flip charters because they've already done that for this year for the 60 car. Legacy officials are requesting, and they were granted permission to depose Rick Ware Racing regarding the announcement of the sale to Pusher, with the contention that if the team is indeed set to be sold, then Legacy should be granted one of the charters before the sale's finalized, adding that Ware didn't disclose that he was selling to Pusher, who actually brokered the charter lease deal between the two operations in the first place. Court warned Rick Ware Racing that they could be in contempt of court if the court determines that Rick Ware Racing misrepresented their intentions. See, that's the trick for me, is the fact that Pusher actually was the centerpiece in negotiating the deal on the original lease agreement between Rick Ware and Legacy in the first place.
Yep. That's what doesn't add up.
Starting to get harder and harder to tell which lawsuit is which in regards to charters within the Cup Series. Now, we just noted the Legacy MC suit against Rick Ware. As it happens, Rick Ware has countersued Legacy MC over the wording of the agreement. And there's more. Feel like I'm in a commercial. Legacy MC has turned around now, filed suit against TJ Pusher as well. Legacy officials are claiming the Pusher's recent announcement of his intent to purchase Rick Ware Racing is interfering with their attempt to buy one of Rick Ware's charters. All of this follows the judge's warning to Rick Ware in the first place that any attempt to sell could result in, quote, serious ramifications, unquote. The team's assertion at the time that they had no plans to sell. That changed. Legacy's new suit is based upon the allegations the Pusher was actually working for them through his consulting firm called Ruckus, R-U-C-U-S, an independent contractor. That he had direct knowledge of their agreement with Rick Ware Racing, even helped broker the deal before he turned around and then said, you know what? I'll just buy your operation.
Yeah, buddy.
A little bit of inside information there, TJ. And I get it. You know, he was part of Spire. He feels like he really could still do this. He, as we noted on the show within the last couple of weeks, he'd like to buy the operation and turn it into a 3-car team, which means there ain't no selling of a charter. And then he's got to go out and find another charter up for sale, which now that's becoming a premium, obviously. So, you know.
Sounds to me there's about to be a charter expansion coming somewhere.
You're almost going to have to. And in the meantime, it's the law, you know, it's the daily saga or the weekly saga of the lawsuit. Welcome to the soap opera world, boys and girls. Trackhouse Racing made an interesting hire this week. Guy who used to work for Joe Gibbs Racing. Not a driver, but not a necessarily unimportant aspect of Joe Gibbs.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. We appreciate you joining us here on this afternoon, or this morning, this weekend, just before 1 week to go before we get to the Brickyard. Is that really a milestone for us anymore? Is that as big a milestone as it used to be?
Nope.
There you go.
I don't think so.
Todd Meredith is back in NASCAR. Trackhouse Racing has hired him. Meredith worked for Joe Gibbs Racing almost from its beginning, worked his way up to the chief operating officer role back in 2013, holding that position through the 2016 season before he kind of roamed off and did some other stuff. Justin Marks came a-calling. He's now back in NASCAR. Marks said of the chance to bring Meredith on board, quote, "We're thrilled to welcome someone of Todd's caliber and experience to help guide Trackhouse to the top. His focus on culture, strategy, quick decision-making, and organization will be a massive shot in the arm for this company as we navigate the pivotal growth period in the history of Trackhouse Racing." We've heard other people who came out of Joe Gibbs Racing to do their own thing, Tony Stewart most notably, that everything that he did that built up Stewart-Haas Racing into what it was at its height was what he learned at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah.
This can only help Trackhouse.
It definitely can't hurt him.
No. And this is a created role for Meredith, created just for him. He steps in to be over the business, marketing, and partner relationships for the race team, and he will answer directly to Chief Revenue Officer Andrew Lukanich. And here's the thing. At the end of this year, we're going to see the driver lineup change. We know this. They're going to keep Shane Van Gisbergen and Ross Chastain, but as we've talked about on the show within the last couple of weeks, they have parted ways officially at the end of the year with Daniel Suarez. Likely Connor Zilisch. Hasn't been announced, but that seems all but certain. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. Time will tell whether or not this does benefit them. It seems like it should.
Yeah, it definitely should. And, Connor's Cup Series starts are not increasing for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree. And then we had unfortunate news of the passing of NASCAR Hall of Famer Rex White. White was born on August the 17th, 1929 in Taylorsville, North Carolina. He was into cars at a very early age. Said that by the age of 8, he actually was already working on the family's Model T Ford. Noted that as a kid, he would sit in that car or basically any vehicle that he could and imagine that he was racing. But he didn't actually get his first race car until 1954, when one of his wife's relatives helped him scrape up the needed $600 to purchase a 1937 Ford. Can you purchase a race car for $600 now?
Maybe a couple of roll bars at best.
Within a year, he said he had paid the money back and was making enough at the tracks to begin to make a living out of racing and racing alone. Running in the sportsman division after a bad start, he dropped out with engine trouble, claimed the division title at West Lanham Speedway in Maryland as a rookie. Moved up to NASCAR in 1956 in what we now call the Cup Series, started 24 races that year, finished top 10 in 14 of them. 1958, he moved out of the Washington, D.C. area, back down to where he had kind of grown up, Spartanburg, North Carolina. Began working with Lewis Clements, who was a friend, ultimately his business partner, and his chief mechanic. They worked up a Chevrolet entry, raced in 22 of that year's 55 sanctioned races, won his first NASCAR race that year in the season opener in Fayette, North Carolina, and just continued his upward trajectory up until 1960, where he claimed 7 wins in his 40 starts that year, finished outside the top 10 only 5 times, claimed his one and only championship that year. Through his career, he claimed 28 race wins, 36 poles, all in only 163 races run, and over his career, as relatively short as it was, racked up a 69% top 10 finish rate. So in almost 70% of 123 races, he claimed a top 10. That is a record that probably will never be matched.
Probably not.
He would fit in today with today's kind of smaller in stature drivers as well. But for the time, he was actually considered to be, well, diminutive. He stood a grand total of 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighed a very slim 135 pounds. But in the end, his career claimed not only those wins and poles and the 1960 title, he was named 1960's most popular driver. He was named as one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers and 75 greatest drivers in 1998 and 2023, respectively. He's been inducted into the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, something that Matt and I are very familiar with, the National Motorsports Press Association Hall of Fame, and that was all before NASCAR inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 2015. And until he passed away officially last night when the news came out, he was the oldest living Hall of Famer. Rex White passed away yesterday. He was 95 years old. Rest in peace, man.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Xfinity Series news. Today's Xfinity Series race going to feature 2 drivers not overly familiar to fans of the top feeder series of NASCAR. Rajah Caruth. Now, he's a familiar name in NASCAR as a Craftsman Truck Series driver. He's joining with Jordan Anderson Racing to drive the number 32 Chevrolet today. He's got a win last year in Vegas. Ended the year 7th in final points in the Truck Series. Added a win this year in Nashville, so he's locked into the playoffs in the Truck Series for the 2nd year in a row. He has 19 Xfinity Series starts, but his last start in the series actually came back in 2023. He's taking over what's kind of considered to be a star car for Jordan Anderson Racing. This car has featured, amongst other drivers, Catherine Legg, Austin Green, and the owner and now part-time driver, Jordan Anderson himself. It has a best finish of 7th, which happened twice under 2 different drivers. Mm-hmm. Over at Hendrick Motorsports, they've got a star car now. It's the 17 car. Usually it's filled with a Cup Moonlighter, but they're going to break it out, and they're going to have former ARCA Menard Series racer Jake Finch behind the wheel. Finch, now 20, has not claimed to start the season above the ARCA level. If the name sounds familiar, it should. He is the son of former Cup Series owner James Finch. Finch owned Phoenix Racing for over 2 decades. How do you think this kid's going to do? Seems kind of a fish out of water.
He's about to get a wake-up call. Quick one.
All right. Let's see. To take the week in order, let's go with this way. Chronological order again. Our Motorsports went looking to change their fortunes for 2025. They had brought in Chris Wright to be the driver at the beginning of the year, but the results weren't there, so the team fired Wright after the weekend last weekend. Wright said in a statement, quote, "I appreciated the opportunity to work with Our Motorsports and compete in the Xfinity Series this year. While I'm stepping away from the number 5 car, I'm excited for what lies ahead and thankful for all I've learned during my time in the Xfinity Series," and said he still wants to race, so he's looking for a ride. While the team has not said what they will be doing in the long term, they hired NASCAR veteran Kaz Gralla for this weekend at Dover. Now, Gralla has one Xfinity Series start this year. It was for Sam Hunt Racing at Chicago, where he finished 22nd. He has one attempt last year. Tried to get into the Charlotte race, but didn't have the car to do it at RSS Racing. He has 2 Truck Series starts last year, while racing the vast majority of the season for Rick Ware Racing in the Cup Series. Teamed with Front Row for the Daytona 500 this year. That ended up, though, being all early this week. Gralla stated he'd gotten the call Monday night to take the ride. He accepted it. Friday morning, just yesterday morning, the team announced in a statement, quote, "Our Motorsports will complete its season Saturday in Dover, Delaware, with Kaz Gralla behind the wheel of the number 5 Ferguson Chevrolet." Statement continued, "Our Motorsports will cease operations in NASCAR racing moving forward. Thank you to NASCAR, Chevrolet, the fans, employees, and drivers for a good ride over the last 6 years." They're out. Gone. Done.
See what happens when you ditch people the likes of Brett Moffitt, Anthony Alfredo.
All drivers who could have been really, really good for you, because we've seen what they've done since.
For those that brought really good sponsors to the team, that, from the sounds of it, their sponsorship money was paid correctly, to somebody that went to ARCA that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and then you bring him back up to Xfinity.
Mm-hmm.
I think you dug your own hole with this one, Hour.
I'll be very curious, because, again, there's a lot of great equipment for this.
Good cars, yes.
So
Very
it'll
good
be
cars.
really interesting to see what happens to the skeleton now, I guess.
Good, really good cars, but Chris Wright's sponsor apparently has not shelled out their money to sponsor that car, and
It's also a problem.
They're essentially broke.
Yeah. So they're going to be selling. Anybody interested in buying an Xfinity Series operation? Just saying. It's out there.
Yep.
To the NHRA, where the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series Rookie of the Year contenders, it's kind of come down to a battle really between 4 drivers. There's Spencer Hyde and Hunter Green, who hail from Funny Car, and Cody Coughlin and Matt Latino out of Pro Stock Car. Spencer Hyde has run 10 races so far this year, 6 round wins, and a runner-up finish, but yet to get an event win, but he has made it to the finals. To me, that puts him leader in the clubhouse, but there are other aspects to it. That's why Tony Stewart won it last year, despite the fact that he really didn't. The performance on the track kind of suffered in comparison to some of the other drivers. I'll put it that way.
Right.
Hunter Green has 5 events to his credit, got 2 round wins, yet to advance to the finals, much less claim an event win. Then we got Cody Coughlin. He's qualified for 8 events so far this year. He's got 3 round wins, does not have an appearance in the finals. And finally is Matt Latino, who's gone to 5 events that he's qualified for. 4 round wins in those, yet to make it to the finals, much less win. Now, to be eligible for Rookie of the Year, the driver has to qualify for at least 5 national events to this point in the season. And that number, of course, will continue to rise as we go further on into the year. Those who just missed out on qualifying for Rookie of the Year at this time, but still could by the end of the year, include Stephen Bell out of the Pro Stock ranks. He has 4 event appearances. From Pro Stock Motorcycle, you got Brandon Davis. He's got 3 appearances in national events so far. And there's a couple of them out of Funny Car, Julie Nataas and Dylan Winefsky. They have 2 and 1 national event appearances respectively, but those 2 are on a specific trajectory over the course of time, where certainly in the case of Julie, they want to become full-time, but they're just trying to get their feet wet. So I don't know whether we're going to see Julie and many more. But again, mathematically, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Gary Densham, who has pulled a special driver out for the second stop of the West Coast Swing, Sonoma. is going to put local driver Tim Gibbons in the car, and that name should be familiar to drag racing fans. Gibbons said of the upcoming NHRA Sonoma Nationals, quote, "I wasn't planning on running Sonoma because the car I usually drive, owned by Terry Haddock, but he's racing in Europe and it falls on the same weekend." And then things change. Quote, "I was sitting at my desk and the phone rings. It's Gary Densham. Timmy, drive my car at Sonoma," he says, and it was just that simple. Sonny DeMontes, who's a longtime friend and crew member for Gary and with whom I've raced with for years, was at the shop. They decided to give me a call. Basically, according to Densham, he's looked up, Tim Gibbons said, "I've looked up to Gary for years. He was a childhood favorite of mine, going all the way back to Lions, OCIR, and Irwindale drag strip days, and I'm thrilled to get this ride because Sonoma is my home track." He's got sponsorship from Big Time Pest Control, which is his own company. So not a bad way to advertise that. So we'll see how well he does next week.
Yep.
And then there's a little bit of fun with the NHRA announcing their 2025 sweepstakes coming courtesy of their top partners. Camping World, K&N Performance, AI Power, Goodyear, and Summit Racing Equipment are all involved in this. This year's sweepstakes puts up over $18,000 in prizes for fans that include a Coleman 13B pull-behind travel trailer. Probably sleeps 2, truth be told.
Probably.
You got 6 K&N cold air intake systems up for grabs. Got an AI-powered dual-fuel portable generator up for grabs. Set of tires from any brand under the Goodyear company. They have a few. And then there's a $1,000 gift card from Summit Racing Equipment for use at summitracing.com. I wouldn't mind having that. I could use that on a vehicle or two of mine. To find out more and to enter, simply go on to this website, nhra.com/2025-sweepstakes-enter-chance-win, or just go on to the NHRA website, go to the news section, and look for the story, and you click the link. Entries began to be accepted on Monday of this week. That'll go through December the 12th of this year at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. No purchase necessary, but certain terms will, of course, apply. Don't they always? As we talked about here a couple of segments ago, John, our producer, is dealing with a possum in the house that he found in his washing machine. He gave me an update, got it into a pillowcase, and gently tossed it into the woods. So the invasion is done. John defends his home turf. Congratulations, producer John. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. Appreciate Matt, who made it through all 2 hours.
Yep.
And you, the listeners and viewers. We'll do it all again with Cross Flags and again next week on Saturday.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.